An unexpected encounter can change everything. When Logan Bennett pulled into the parking lot on a quiet afternoon, he had no idea that moment would launch him into an extraordinary journey, one that would push him beyond his own limits. From a man with a simple life, Logan became the protector of a remarkable creature, a companion that made him see the world in a completely different way. This story will make you laugh, shed tears, and feel the true power of compassion. Before we dive into today's story, we would love for you to subscribe to the Dog Stories channel. It truly means the world to us and is a great way to show your support for this content. Thank you so much. Now let's embark on Logan's incredible journey. Logan Bennett was a young man living in the peaceful small town of Meadowbrook. He worked at a bookstore in the town center, a cozy spot where people often stopped by to browse old books or simply chat with Logan for a few moments. At 27, Logan wasn't someone who sought out excitement. He enjoyed a quiet life, tending to the small potted plants in his apartment, reading every evening, and strolling through the tree-lined streets of the town. Though Logan's life was calm and steady, there were moments when he felt lonely. The routine of each passing day sometimes left him longing for something new, a change, no matter how small. What he didn't expect was that change would come from an unexpected moment on a late weekend afternoon. That evening, Logan had just finished shopping at a local supermarket. He stepped into the parking lot, carrying a few bags of groceries. The sky had turned a brilliant shade of orange, with the last rays of sunlight filtering through the trees, casting a peaceful glow. As Logan walked toward his car, a faint, fragile sound reached his ears. It was a whimper, so soft that he might have missed it if he hadn't been paying attention. Logan stopped and turned his head toward the sound. It was coming from behind an old, worn-out truck parked nearby. The truck was covered in dust, its paint scratched and faded, looking as if it had spent years traveling down rough and unforgiving roads. As he stepped closer, Logan noticed something in the truck bed, a small metal cage. Inside the cage, a tiny puppy lay curled up. Its fur was matted and dirty, as if it hadn't been bathed in a long time. Its large, round eyes were wide, open, filled with exhaustion and a heartbreaking sadness. The little pup's chest rose and fell weakly, its breath barely audible over the noise of the parking lot. Logan felt his heart tighten. He stood there for a moment, staring at the puppy, feeling the pain and fear radiating from the fragile creature. One question filled his mind: why is it here? And who could be so cruel? Just as Logan was trying to process what he was seeing, a middle-aged man stepped out of a nearby store. He looked tired, wearing an old jacket and a faded baseball cap. Noticing Logan standing near his truck, the man seemed slightly surprised, but then he spoke. "You looking at that dog? It's been nothing but trouble for me." Logan turned to him, confusion in his eyes. "What happened to it? Is this your dog?" The man shook his head and let out a heavy sigh. He explained that the puppy had been abandoned near his farm. Starving, it had broken into his chicken coop looking for food, causing several chickens to die from fright while others had been attacked. Though he initially had good intentions, the man couldn't keep the dog because of the damage it had caused. "I tried chasing it away, but it kept coming back. Maybe it was just too hungry and had nowhere else to go," he said, his voice weary. "I can't take care of it anymore. I was planning to take it to the vet so they could put it down." Logan froze. Did he mean euthanasia? Ending the life of this tiny creature just because it had no one to care for it? A lump formed in his throat as he processed the man's words. He didn't say anything right away, but deep down, Logan knew he couldn't let that happen. He looked at the puppy once more. Its weak, pleading eyes met his, silently begging for help. "Can I take it?" Logan asked after a few moments of thought. The man looked at him, surprised, then let out a small sigh of relief. "Really? If you want it, it's yours. But just make sure you never bring it back to my farm. I don't want any more trouble." Logan nodded without hesitation. He opened the cage and gently lifted the puppy into his arms. At first, the tiny creature trembled, afraid and unsure. But as Logan stroked its filthy, matted fur, it slowly relaxed, resting its head against his chest. He could feel its faint heartbeat against his own. "We're going to be okay," Logan whispered. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." He decided to name the puppy Scout, a name that symbolized bravery and resilience. Bringing Scout home to his small apartment in Meadowbrook, Logan quickly realized that his life would never be the same again. His apartment had always been neat and orderly, with bookshelves covering half of the living room and a few potted plants sitting by the window. But now, he needed to create a whole new space, one that would accommodate the newest and most unexpected addition to his life. Logan began rearranging his apartment, moving unnecessary furniture to create more space for Scout to play. He bought a soft dog bed and placed it in the corner of the room, giving Scout a cozy spot to rest. Toys, ranging from rubber balls to chew sticks, were carefully arranged so the little pup would always have something to keep it entertained. Watching Scout curl up on the bed, Logan felt a quiet joy he never expected to experience. In the first few days, Scout was timid and cautious. It refused to stray far from Logan, following him everywhere like a shadow, its big round eyes watching his every move. Sensing the puppy's fear, Logan spent more time at home, speaking to it in a gentle voice and stroking its fur to help it feel safe. And slowly, little by little, Scout began to come out of its shell. For the first time, Logan saw Scout wag its tail when he called its name. That tiny wag felt like a ray of light, warming something deep inside him, and he couldn't help but smile. As the days passed, Scout's playful personality started to shine through. It dragged Logan's shoes out of the closet, carried socks to every corner of the apartment, and turned everything into a game. Logan didn't mind at all. Instead, he laughed each time Scout trotted around with a shoe in its mouth, its bright eyes sparkling as if to say, "You're not mad, right?" Within just a few weeks, Logan began to notice something strange. Scout was growing much faster than he had expected. At first, the pup had been small and adorable, easily fitting in Logan's arms. But before long, Scout had outgrown his expectations. Its legs grew longer, its body became stronger, and the small dog bed that once seemed perfect was now far too cramped. Logan had to buy a bigger bed, and Scout quickly claimed it as if it had always been its home. What puzzled Logan the most was Scout's boundless energy. The dog was always full of life, ready to run and jump everywhere, whether inside the apartment or during their daily walks. More than just physical growth, Logan noticed that Scout was incredibly smart. It learned how to open doors after watching Logan do it just a few times. One day, Logan accidentally left a bag of food on the table, and within moments, Scout had cleverly taken care of it without making a single sound. As he continued caring for Scout, Logan began noticing unusual habits. Unlike most dogs, Scout showed no real interest in dry dog food. Logan tried various brands, but nothing seemed to excite Scout. It wasn't until he prepared a meal with raw meat that Scout ate eagerly. At first, Logan thought the pup was just picky, but this preference became more and more obvious, almost as if raw meat was the only thing that felt right to Scout. Moreover, Scout was extremely alert to its surroundings. Every time they went outside, it would hold its head high, ears perked, constantly sniffing the air. It was as if Scout could sense things that Logan couldn't. Distant sounds, unfamiliar scents, or even the slightest movement in the shadows. All of this made Logan wonder. Maybe Scout is just a special dog, he told himself. But deep down, he felt there was something more, something he couldn't quite explain. As Scout continued to grow, its strange behaviors became even more apparent, especially during their daily walks. Every afternoon, Logan would take Scout to a small forest on the outskirts of Meadowbrook. It was their favorite place, where Scout could run freely, and Logan could enjoy a moment of peace to clear his mind. At first, everything seemed normal. Scout loved running around, exploring the trails, but after a few weeks, Logan started noticing unusual reactions whenever Scout encountered other animals. One afternoon, Scout suddenly stopped in the middle of the path, ears perked and nose twitching rapidly. Logan followed Scout's gaze, trying to see what had caught its attention. A small rabbit quickly darted into the bushes, but instead of chasing after it like most dogs would, Scout remained completely still, watching intently until the rabbit disappeared from sight. "Scout, you okay?" Logan asked, but Scout didn't move, as if listening to something Logan couldn't hear. Over time, Logan realized that Scout's reactions weren't just limited to small animals like rabbits. One day, while walking through the park, they ran into a friend who was out with his dog. Unlike other dogs that would bark or excitedly run up to greet each other, Scout kept its distance. It let out a low, quiet growl, its eyes filled with wary suspicion. Logan felt embarrassed and quickly tightened the leash, apologizing to his friend. But this wasn't an isolated incident. Every time Scout encountered another animal, even friendly dogs, it refused to approach, keeping its distance as if sensing something unseen. The strangest thing of all happened at night. Logan usually left the window open to let fresh air into the apartment, and Scout had developed a habit of sitting by the window, staring out into the darkness. One night, while Logan was reading, a distant howl echoed from the hills surrounding the town. It was a sound unlike anything he had ever heard before, long, haunting, almost like a wolf's call. At first, Logan didn't think much of it, but then Scout suddenly stood up, the fur along its back bristling, ears pricked high. And then, to Logan's shock, Scout threw its head back and responded with a deep, resonant howl of its own. Logan froze, unable to believe what he was hearing. Scout wasn't just making noise, it was howling, and the sound was eerily similar to the one that had come from the hills. It was powerful, wild, something primal that didn't belong inside the walls of an apartment. As time went on, these behaviors only deepened Logan's questions. Was Scout really just a dog? Why did it react so differently to other animals? And why did it howl like a wolf in the middle of the night? One morning, while feeding Scout, Logan found himself observing the dog more closely. He noticed something in Scout's eyes, a sharp, piercing gaze that he had never seen in a regular dog. Its jet black fur was thick and sleek, almost as if it had been designed to withstand the harshest cold. Logan told himself that Scout might be a rare mixed breed, but deep down, he knew something wasn't right. "Scout, what are you?" Logan murmured, running his fingers through the dog's fur. Scout lifted its head and gently licked Logan's hand, as if to say, "Don't worry, I'm still your friend." Despite his growing suspicions, Logan couldn't imagine parting with Scout. To him, Scout wasn't just a dog or some strange animal. Scout was his first true companion, the one who had made him feel a little less alone. Whatever Scout was, Logan was determined to protect and care for him, even if the truth remained a mystery. But no matter how much Logan tried to push aside his doubts, Scout's unusual growth was becoming impossible to ignore. Within just a few months, Scout had grown at an astonishing rate. It wasn't just taller than most dogs, it was massive, with a powerful muscular build and long, sturdy legs. Logan had already replaced Scout's leash and collar several times, struggling to keep up with its ever-increasing size. One morning, as Scout leaped onto the couch, Logan realized that the dog was now nearly as tall as his shoulder when standing on its hind legs. He chuckled softly, trying to reassure himself that Scout was just an unusually large mixed breed. But deep down, he knew he needed answers. Determined to get some clarity, Logan scheduled a full checkup for Scout at a veterinary clinic in town. That afternoon, he led Scout into the clinic on a quiet, peaceful day. The moment they stepped inside, every pair of eyes in the waiting room turned toward them. Scout, with its thick, glossy black fur and striking amber eyes, commanded attention. Some people looked wary, while others simply stared in curiosity. When the veterinarian, Dr. Morgan Hale, stepped out and caught sight of Scout, she froze for a brief moment. "Well, you've brought in quite a unique dog," she said, her smile laced with intrigue. Logan smiled back, but a faint unease settled in his chest. Something told him that whatever answers he was about to receive might change everything. After leading Scout into the examination room, Dr. Hale began the routine checkup. At first, everything seemed normal. Scout's heartbeat, weight, and neurological responses were all strong and healthy. But when she examined Scout's teeth more closely, her expression briefly flickered with surprise. "Hold on, I need to check something," she said, retrieving some documents and comparing notes. Then, After a brief moment of hesitation, she asked Logan to wait outside while she continued examining Scout. About 20 minutes later, Dr. Hale invited Logan back into the room. Her face was more serious than before. "Logan, I need to tell you something," she said gently but firmly. "Scout is not a dog." Logan frowned, his heartbeat quickening. "What do you mean? If Scout isn't a dog, then what is he?" he asked, his voice unsteady. Dr. Hale sighed. "Scout is a midnight wolf, a rare species of black wolf that typically inhabits high mountain regions. I don't know how he ended up here, but there's no doubt he has none of the characteristics of a domesticated dog." The revelation hit Logan like a bomb going off in his mind. "A wolf? How is that possible?" he muttered, trying to grasp the reality of it. "Scout, he's not aggressive at all. He's even more well-behaved than most dogs I've met." He glanced down at Scout, who sat calmly by his feet, looking up at him with those gentle, trusting eyes, almost as if he understood every word of the conversation. Scout didn't resemble a dangerous predator. Instead, he looked like a loyal companion, always seeking comfort and protection from Logan. Inside, Logan was overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. He was stunned by the truth, unsettled by what it could mean, but at the same time, he felt an even deeper connection to Scout. He couldn't imagine giving him up, not after everything they had been through together. Scout was still Scout. Even knowing he wasn't a dog, Logan couldn't erase the memories of the happy moments they had shared. Scout was still the same puppy that had melted his heart that fateful day in the parking lot. And now, more than ever, Logan felt an unshakable responsibility to protect him. Logan sighed, running his fingers through Scout's sleek black fur, his mind flooded with questions. How did a wolf end up abandoned at a farm? Had he been separated from his pack? Taken from the wild by humans? And more importantly, could he still care for Scout the way he had before? The thoughts swirled relentlessly in Logan's mind as he pulled Scout into a tight embrace, as if afraid that letting go would mean losing him forever. What would you do if you were in Logan's shoes? If you suddenly discovered that your loyal companion wasn't a dog, but a rare and wild creature? Would you have the courage to continue caring for and protecting them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories and opinions. A few days after learning the truth about Scout from the vet, Logan began to feel the weight of keeping a wild animal in a residential neighborhood. Even though he tried to keep it a secret, Scout's presence was becoming harder to ignore. His sheer size and striking appearance drew more attention with each passing day. Some people were intrigued, while others grew suspicious. Things took a turn for the worse one morning when Logan received a phone call from a man introducing himself as Derek Clive, a wildlife inspector. Clive explained that he had received reports from local residents about an unusually large dog living in the neighborhood. Logan felt his heart stop for a moment. The neighbors' suspicions had become reality. That afternoon, Inspector Clive arrived at Logan's home. He was a stern-looking middle-aged man, carrying a large briefcase. As soon as he stepped inside, his eyes locked onto Scout, who lay calmly at Logan's feet, watching the stranger with quiet but wary intensity. "You must be Logan Bennett," Clive said, his deep voice carrying an edge of authority. Logan nodded, trying to steady himself. That's right. He could already tell. This wasn't going to be an ordinary conversation. "So this is your dog?" Clive gestured toward Scout. Logan hesitated for a brief moment but decided to tell the truth. "Yes, but I recently found out that Scout isn't a dog. He's a black wolf. I only learned the truth a few days ago." The admission made the air in the room grow heavier. Clive frowned, opened his briefcase and pulled out a file. "Do you realize that keeping a wild animal without a permit is illegal?" he asked, his tone devoid of sympathy. "I do," Logan replied, his voice tinged with sadness. "But I can't abandon Scout. He's not just an animal. He's family to me." Hearing Logan's words, Clive's expression softened slightly, though duty kept him firm. "I understand your feelings, Logan," he said, his voice gentler than before. "But Scout can't stay in a residential area. No matter how well you've raised him, a wolf is still a wild animal. He needs an environment that suits his nature. And more importantly, His presence here, whether he means harm or not, could cause fear or even danger to the people around you. Logan remained silent, his fists clenched tightly. He knew Clive wasn't wrong, but the thought of being forced to part with Scout was unbearable. There are two options, Clive continued. You can transfer Scout to a wildlife rescue center, where he will be properly cared for in the right environment. Or if you want to keep him, you'll need to move out of this neighborhood and ensure that your new home meets all the necessary safety regulations. But I don't have the means to move right now, Logan admitted, his voice unsteady. I've put everything I have into taking care of Scout. Please, just give me some time. Clive studied Logan for a long moment as if weighing his options. I'll give you 3 weeks, he finally said, his tone firm. I'll come back then. If you haven't made the necessary arrangements, I'll have no choice but to step in and take Scout. As Clive walked out the door, Logan collapsed onto the couch, his mind spiraling with panic. He looked down at Scout, who lay beside him, gazing up with those soft, trusting eyes as if telling him everything would be okay. But Logan knew it wasn't okay, and time was running out. How could he possibly part with this creature, the friend who had completely changed his life? But how could he move or make all the necessary preparations in just 3 weeks? The questions weighed heavier on Logan than anything he had ever faced. Yet deep down, he knew one thing for certain. He wouldn't give up on Scout no matter how difficult things became. What would you do in Logan's place? Would you be willing to change your entire life to keep your loyal companion by your side? As Logan sat, grappling with Inspector Clive's ultimatum, only one thought burned clearly in his mind. He couldn't abandon Scout. Wolf or not, Scout was still his family. And no matter what it took, Logan would find a way to keep his friend safe. After days of restless deliberation, Logan made the biggest decision of his life. He chose to sell his small apartment in Meadowbrook, the place he had called home since the start of his journey. It wasn't an easy choice, but Logan knew Scout needed something more, a place where he could live freely, without the constraints of city regulations. Using all the money from selling his apartment, Logan purchased a small piece of land on the outskirts, a few hours' drive from town. It was a quiet place, surrounded by rolling green fields and bordering a dense, peaceful forest. The location offered both tranquility and an environment much closer to the wild, a place where Scout could thrive. But moving to a new place was just the beginning. Logan wasted no time in building a secure enclosure for Scout. Armed with online tutorials and advice from experienced friends, he constructed a high, reinforced fence around a large section of the land. The fencing was designed not only to keep Scout safe from potential dangers, but also to ensure the safety of those nearby. Day after day, Logan worked tirelessly, digging into the earth, setting up posts, stretching metal wiring. His hands became raw with blisters, his muscles ached with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with determination. Because deep in his heart, Logan knew this was the only way. Scout deserved a home that truly belonged to him, and Logan would stop at nothing to build it. Alongside building their new home, Logan dedicated himself to learning everything he could about raising a wolf. He pored over research papers, joined online forums, and even reached out to wildlife conservation centers to seek advice from experts. Through his studies, he discovered that caring for a wolf was nothing like raising a dog. From dietary needs and exercise requirements to ensuring an environment that nurtured its natural instincts. Every morning, Logan woke up early to prepare Scout's specialized meals consisting primarily of fresh meat and essential supplements. He also designed enrichment activities to engage Scout's hunting instincts, such as food-searching games within the enclosure. The more effort Logan put in, the stronger their bond became. He noticed how Scout looked at him, not just with loyalty, but with a silent gratitude, a deep understanding that words could never express. And in those quiet moments, Logan realized something profound. They weren't just man and wolf anymore. They were family. Despite his determination, Logan couldn't escape the crushing weight of financial strain. Buying the land, building the enclosure, and securing everything Scout needed had drained nearly all of his savings. Logan realized he had thrown himself into a battle he hadn't been financially prepared for. Every day, as he stared at the growing pile of bills, anxiety crept in. His part-time job in town was no longer enough to cover expenses. Logan was forced to cut his personal spending to the bare minimum. He stopped eating out, sold his old car, and even gave up buying new books, one of his greatest passions. No matter how hard he tried, the pressure continued to mount. There were nights when Logan sat alone in his small new home, his head lowered, drowning in exhaustion and doubt. The thought of losing Scout, the friend who had transformed his life, felt like losing a part of his own soul. Can I really keep going? He questioned himself in his weakest moments. But every time Scout curled up beside him, looking at him with those bright, trusting eyes, Logan found the strength to push forward. Scout needs me, and I won't let him down. Logan didn't want to give up, but his financial situation had hit a dead end. The long, grueling days spent building a safe home for Scout had left him utterly exhausted, physically, mentally, and emotionally. One evening, as Logan sat in his small house, his vision blurred from fatigue, his childhood friend Rachel stopped by. Rachel had known Logan since high school, the kind of friend who could sense his emotions without him having to say a word. When she saw the exhaustion on his face and the unwavering devotion he had for Scout, Rachel knew she had to step in. "You don't have to fight this alone," she said, a warm, reassuring smile on her face. "Let people hear your story, yours and Scout's. I know there are people out there who would want to help." At first, Logan shook his head. He hated the idea of asking for help or burdening others with his struggles. But Rachel convinced him that this wasn't just about him, it was about Scout. "He deserves a real chance at a good life," she said softly. "And sometimes we all need a little help to make that happen." Rachel spent the entire night crafting a heartfelt post on social media, detailing the incredible bond between Logan and Scout. She recounted their fateful meeting in the parking lot, Logan's journey to uncover the truth, and his extraordinary determination to protect Scout at all costs. She included powerful photos, a tired but happy Logan beside Scout, the two of them playing together, their bond undeniable in every frame. The post went viral. Within hours, it began spreading rapidly, shared by hundreds, then thousands of people. Early readers were deeply moved and reshared the story with messages of admiration for Logan's compassion and the unbreakable connection between him and Scout. Then, the comments started flooding in. "Logan is amazing. I can't imagine the sacrifices he's made for Scout. Scout is one lucky wolf. I want to help in any way I can. We can't let Logan do this alone. Let's support him together." For the first time in weeks, hope flickered in Logan's heart. Maybe, just maybe, he wouldn't have to fight this battle alone anymore. Not long after, the post caught the attention of celebrities and animal welfare organizations. Inspired by Logan and Scout's story, Rachel launched an online fundraising campaign to help Logan build a sanctuary for Scout. What happened next was beyond anything they had imagined. Donations began pouring in, from small contributions of a few dollars to hundreds at a time. Each donation came with a heartfelt message of encouragement, bringing Logan to tears as he read through them. But it wasn't just the online community that stepped up. Even Inspector Derek Clive, the same wildlife officer who had issued Logan an ultimatum, was deeply moved by the story. Clive reached out personally, offering free consultation and guidance on meeting the necessary standards to make the sanctuary fully legal and secure. "At first I was just doing my job," Clive admitted. "But now I see something rare, a bond between man and wild animal that goes beyond logic." Then, with a small but genuine smile, he added, "I want to help you do this the right way." For the first time in weeks, Logan felt something powerful: hope. With Inspector Clive's expert advice, Logan refined the sanctuary's design, ensuring that Scout had plenty of space to roam freely while remaining safe. Animal welfare organizations also stepped in, donating essential materials such as fencing, shelter supplies, and enrichment tools for Scout's new home. With the support of the community, Logan finally had the resources to complete Scout's sanctuary. The land was now enclosed by a tall, reinforced fence, providing security while allowing Scout the freedom he deserved. A vast open space stretched within, shaded by newly planted trees, and in one corner a small pond, which Logan had dug himself, glistened under the sun. For the first time, Scout wasn't just living in a home. He was thriving in an environment where he could truly be himself. As Logan gazed at what they had built together, emotion swelled in his chest. He knew that none of this would have been possible without the kindness of so many people who had believed in them. Kneeling beside Scout, he gently ran his fingers through the wolf's sleek fur and whispered, "We did it, buddy. And it wasn't just me. There are so many people out there who love you too." One crisp morning, Logan received a call from Inspector Derek Clive. The news left him speechless. The sanctuary had been officially approved. Clive confirmed that Logan's efforts had met all the necessary standards to care for and protect a wild animal like Scout. Every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every drop of sweat, it had all been worth it. Later that day, Clive arrived in person to hand over the certification. For the first time, a rare smile crossed the inspector's face. "You've done something that very few people would even dare to try, Logan," Clive said, his voice carrying both admiration and respect. "This isn't just Scout's home. It's a testament to your compassion and determination." Logan's gaze shifted to Scout, now running freely across the vast sanctuary, his sleek black fur shimmering in the sunlight, his amber eyes full of life. Scout wasn't just a wolf, he was family. Though wild at heart, he had never lost his loyalty or gentle spirit. He often stayed close to Logan, curling up beside him as he worked, resting his head on Logan's lap. A silent, powerful reminder of the unbreakable bond they shared. Every morning, Logan and Scout walked the perimeter of the sanctuary. Scout loved exploring, sniffing every blade of grass, and occasionally tilting his head back to let out a long, echoing howl, a reminder that deep down, he was still a creature of the wild. But what amazed Logan the most was that no matter how far Scout wandered, he always came back, as if, despite his instincts, this place, this life with Logan, was where he truly belonged. As things settled, Logan realized that his journey didn't end with Scout. Living in the sanctuary had sparked a greater purpose within him, one that went beyond just saving one wolf. He decided to open his doors to more abandoned and rescued animals. It started small, a frail stray cat, a few chickens left behind after a farm shut down, and even a wounded fawn in need of care. What truly surprised Logan was how Scout embraced each new arrival. Rather than being territorial, Scout took on the role of guardian. He patrolled the sanctuary, always alert to anything unusual. And if an animal needed help, Scout would lead Logan straight to them, as if they had developed an unspoken understanding. This wasn't just a sanctuary for Scout anymore. It was a home for the forgotten, the lost, and those in need of a second chance. One morning, Logan spotted Scout lying beside the small fawn, gently nudging it with his head, encouraging it to stand. The moment was so breathtakingly beautiful that Logan couldn't resist capturing it in a photo. When he shared the images with the people who had helped him along the way, they quickly went viral. More and more people became aware of Logan's sanctuary, and what started as a personal mission grew into something much bigger. From an ordinary man, Logan had become a guardian of the forgotten, admired by his entire community for his unwavering dedication to animals. The story of Logan and Scout wasn't just inspiring, it was life-changing. With their growing recognition, sponsors and donors reached out, eager to support the sanctuary's expansion. Soon, Logan had the resources to build new enclosures welcoming more species in need, rescued foxes, otters, and even birds of prey that could no longer survive in the wild. Despite his ever-growing responsibilities, Logan never let his bond with Scout fade, because he knew that without Scout, none of this would have been possible. Scout had given him a purpose, a reason to fight, to build, to believe. He wasn't just the reason Logan started this journey, he was the friend who had changed his life forever. The story of Logan and Scout is a powerful testament to how compassion and determination can overcome any challenge. A wild wolf and a human crossed paths in what seemed like a chance encounter, but their extraordinary bond not only transformed their own lives, it also changed the lives of many other creatures in need. Support us by clicking like, sharing this story with your friends, and subscribing to Dog Stories so you never miss more inspiring tales. We deeply appreciate every bit of support from you. Do you think Logan made the right choice by keeping Scout and expanding his mission? Would you be willing to change your life to protect an animal in need? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for being a part of this journey.